Harrison?
Hello. Yeah, hey, Kat.
Hi, thank you for tuning in to this Tuesday, September 22nd, Organic News here on Awake Radio. And we couldn't get Harrison's Skype working, so we're just calling him over the phone. And I hope
Yeah, sorry about
I
that.
hope the audio is going to come over well. So Harrison, you were on last year. You're involved in Occupy the Need Act and Occupy Weed Street, and you spoke last Thursday at the 4th anniversary of Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah,
Can you tell?
it's a good event. It's a good day.
Yeah, tell everybody what you were sharing.
The main message that I was sharing was get down to the Federal Reserve. That's the main call to action. You know, there's a lot to understand. There's a lot to know about the Federal Reserve and about the Need Act. But the best place you can possibly figure it out and learn about it is down in the Federal Reserve with us every Friday night, 7 p.m. And it's the best possible way to occupy Wall Street. The main message I gave Ducati was, look, never doubt that a small but committed group of thoughtful, dedicated citizens can shape the world with you.
Yeah.
Nothing that ever has. And, so the main point that I try to drive home is that it should still take Wall Street, even though the movement's obviously a lot smaller. There's no denying that fact, but that's not necessarily a disadvantage. You don't need a lot of people down at the Federal Reserve in order to make it that. Several dozen people getting down there on a regular basis.
Harrison, I'm gonna call you back because I'm gonna try to call you back.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, the sound didn't sound good to me. I don't know how it sounded. Let me try calling him back. People think it's easy to do an interview by phone, but they don't realize that the sound quality is not as good. Harrison?
Yep, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, it sounds better. It was kind of not sounding so great before.
Okay.
Try to speak as kind of slowly and articulately, if you would.
Sure thing.
Okay. So like you were saying.
So like I was saying, what was the last thing? Where did we leave off? What was the last thing?
Yeah, you were talking about the Fed and how it only takes a small amount of people being down at the Fed. It doesn't take a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty much the message I gave at Ducati last week. Like it's not impossible to end the recession. Like we can get better wages for jobs we actually appreciate, building energy systems that we actually want. Like we can have universal education, we can have universal healthcare, we can have public housing, we can get our universal basic guaranteed income. Like the Need Act is the straightest line to that point, in my opinion. Because it makes the Fed pay for all of these things I just mentioned. Even if you don't want, a Green New Deal, even if you're not interested in universal healthcare, universal education, a green new energy infrastructure, and a universal basic guaranteed income and public elections and all the other things that the Federal Reserve could and should be paying for the sovereign currency, you should still be down the Fed anyway, because I guarantee you, whatever issue you're concerned with, be it housing or education or justice on some sort of oppressive intersectionality, whatever the cause of it is. I mean, the Federal Reserve is the source of all the money that's fueling whatever conflict, whatever social form of oppression you're dealing with right now. So everyone needs to know about this.
Who wouldn't be interested in any of that stuff that you mentioned? I mean, why wouldn't any? I mean, it sounds like everybody would be interested in at least one of those things that you mentioned.
yeah, so why aren't more people reading about the Need Act? Why aren't more people at the Federal Reserve? Why aren't more people looking for solutions? Why are people just looking for new ways to reframe the problem? You know, why are people just focused on being right? You know, like you know, I think on the left you have a lot of people, you know, saying it's capitalism. While on the right you have a lot of people saying you know, it's the welfare system, it's lazy people holding us down. And, yeah, I don't think either group is right. The one systematic flaw that's keeping people broke and keeping other people, you know, rich, pathologically rich, to the point where they're disconnected with the rest of us,
Right.
is the Federal Reserve. That's the monetary system. The way that, and when I say the Federal Reserve, what I'm talking about now is the way that money itself is created. We're talking about the means of producing money. So, you know, we're talking about what former President Van Buren called money power, the power of making money.
Who called it that? Who called it that?
President Van Buren, Andrew Jackson's successor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
Sorry.
So from the Occupy the Need Act website, I'm just going to read, why should I occupy the Need Act? As our money system is a key pillar in maintaining general economic welfare, and as the Federal Reserve System and its private banking partners has consistently failed to promote or preserve the general welfare, it is essential that Congress, in the name of protecting the economic lives of the American people and the long-term security of our nation, reassume the powers and responsibilities granted to it by the Constitution, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled. It's Section 224. But I just, reading that, it made me think of what I just heard somebody recently, you know, saying. It's like, it's also congressional approval that's needed to wage wars, and you know, that doesn't stop the president from just waging wars all by himself without.
Well, I mean, it can wage violence. I mean, waging war. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, you know, they just wage violence without making formal declarations of war ever since Vietnam, I feel. I mean,
and how, like, so that's what I'm like. How is this allowed to, you know, be gotten away with? I mean, it seems like Congress's role, you know, in like what you're talking about, and also in you know, their role in being you know, deciding whether or not to enter into a war, is being completely eliminated.
Well, I think we're talking about a few different things. I mean, I'm talking about the monetary system, and now you're jumping into talking about Congress and war, and I don't have answers for those questions.
Yeah, I was just talking about Congress's role. You know, like
sure.
In just, you know, either of those, just their role in general. Right.
I mean, you know, the role, we talk about the role of Congress, we talk about the role of government, you know. The Constitution, you know, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5, gives Congress the power to coin, you know, and circulate money. You know, that power that the Constitution laid out for our legislative body, you know, that needs to be taken back. The bankers took that power for themselves. I think, you know, to answer your question in terms of like war and the money and all this stuff, you know, I mean, Congress is obviously bought out by bankers. I think, you know, the bankers are the ones who decide when to go to war, because that, you know, they get to finance all kinds of projects that you know, the government will be forced to pay for, building all kinds of weapons of mass destruction. You know, when I look at like the modern police state, when we look at all these wars happening in, you know, foreign and domestically, you know, you wonder, like, where do they get the money for all these things. But, you know, why, how are we able to afford all these things? Like, at the same time, like, how are these banks able to still exist, even though they don't really make anything of value?
Right.
You know, where is this unlimited growth coming from? Like, the source of this unlimited growth is that, you know, because the Fed can make money out of nothing and, you know, loan it out to our government at interest rates, you know, which we talked about hiking, you know, because the government has massive unpaid debt back to private Wall Street bank cartels for making money, letting us use money for all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. You agree?
Yeah. It sounded like it was going back to not being able to hear you very well, but okay. So what?
Let me sit down and see it. Let me see if I change my position here. The only point I'm trying to make is that the reason why, you know, we live in this system of like perpetual pathological growth that doesn't really help anyone actually grow. I mean, this need to keep expanding the bottom line. You know, that comes from the Federal Reserve constantly just making money to give to these bankers to spend on, you know, things that produce no value. And then these bankers, you know, they have to recruit value somehow and get a tax for that. And the best way to pay off this national deficit, the best way to pay off all these debts and to move forward, not just to pay off, to get out of the mess, but to actually get ahead, you know, to get free systems of universal education and, you know, green, clean energy and public elections and, you know, sustainable public housing and transportation is through sovereign currency. You know, and the best way to get sovereign currency is through the National Emergency Employment Defense Act. And the best way to get the National Emergency Employment Defense Act through Congress is for us, we the people, to start calling Congress and start calling our representatives and demanding that they support this bill. You know, this is the one point at which I run into a lot of conflict, you know, within the elements of Occupy Wall Street that think they're more hardcore, that think they're, you know, more radical and more militant, you know, because they don't think that institutional change works. But, you know, obviously, you know, and I hope anyone else listening knows that you also do how to work with marijuana legalization. The reason why marijuana is now regulated and taxed in 4 states in this nation is in no small part because folks called their representatives. You know, they emailed and called and harassed these people at, you know, the advice normal and the sort of policy line, marijuana policy project, and, you know, these people forced their politicians and their local representatives to do their job, and nothing pisses off a politician like forcing them to do their job.
Right.
You know, that's so.
I mean, it is what they get. It is what they get paid for. That's what they get paid for, to do their job.
Right, and so the more we contact them, the more of a horizontal dialogue we open up with them, you know, the more aides they have to pay to sit there and take their calls and record things and so forth. But, I mean, like, when we get phone calls to these people, when we get phone calls to politicians, they pay attention to that every bit as much as they pay attention to voting. I had a following science teacher, political science teacher back in undergrad, who always told us that, you know, it's not enough to vote. Like, you can vote for your politician. They give them quantitative information. If they don't know why you voted for them, they always want to know why you voted for them. And, you know, these politicians, like, they do listen. They have to listen.
I would imagine
it's in their best interest to listen.
I would think that they would listen even more to a phone call more than even voting, because, like you said, it seems voting is kind of more impersonal, and calling is much more personal and intimate, and
yeah, I mean, it's like when you got a phone stalker, someone who just keeps calling you over and over and over again and won't leave you alone, like telling you, hey, go out with me, hey, go out with me, hey, go out with me. Like, like imagine when you get a lot of people calling you saying, occupy the need act, occupy the need act, occupy the need act, sponsor this bill, sponsor this bill. Like, it freaks you out, like it makes these people scramble. Like, we can't see what it does to them. We can't see how much stress it raises for them. But, part of the reason we know it works is because we have spies, we have people on the inside who give us feedback, and we have an indication that we should continue doing what we're doing. So, this whole idea that the political system doesn't work is obvious. I mean, it's just not true in my opinion. The political system is working great for the bankers. I don't think big government is the problem. I don't think big government really exists. I think government is just the boot that the bankers wear when they crush the 99%. We need to get the boot off our throat. We need to put the boot back on our feet. We need to kick the bankers in the nuts with it.
And isn't
the NEAT Act is the shoehorn that's going to get the boot back on our foot, so to speak.
Isn't it corporations too, besides the bankers?
Well, what are corporations?
That own the government?
Who? I mean, like it's obviously all connected. It's obviously all interconnected. But like who? What's? I mean, in terms of what is maintaining the growth. Where is the best place to strike in order to shut off the growth? The Federal Reserve is that weak spot. It's the Achilles heel and the Death Star. It's that spot where Luke is like, in his X-Wing, and he's in the trench on the Death Star. He has to hit that little spot, with his torpedo. That's the Federal Reserve, and the torpedoes need that. We can take everything hostage. We can occupy everything. We can occupy the central banking system that produces our money. We can occupy the federal government, these big corporations, all of them, and anyone that uses the money. And we can occupy this entire consumer lifestyle simultaneously by going to the Federal Reserve and shutting the Fed down if we wanted to. But if you shut it down, I'm not interested in shutting it down. I mean, that's chaos. There's not many people out there, you and I know, who think that's a good idea. That's the path towards tyranny and fascism. Seems you have a bunch of frightened, lazy cows who don't know how to take care of themselves, who don't know where to eat or sleep or, go to the bathroom or, you get stampedes, you get chaos. We don't need that. We need prosperity. And, we don't, there are certain elements of government that need to be reformed and fixed. And the monetary system is the best possible place to start. This allows us, this will enable us to shift funding away from these useless wars and put it back towards, funding recovery, funding education, and health, and hospitals, and better politics, and better energy.
What should people do then to help get the NEAT Act passed? Again, it says on the site, call Congress, tell them to sponsor the NEAT Act for a Green New Deal.
Absolutely. I mean, so thank you for asking. I mean, everyone should read the NEAT Act. You go online, just type in HR, or type in the NEAT Act, you'll pop up. You'll see a website, you'll see it on a website called American Monetary Institute. They help get it produced. The main thing to do that you can do to help is to actually come down to the Federal Reserve every Friday night to New York City. Go to a Federal Reserve if you're listening from somewhere else in the country. There's Federal Reserves in 15 other cities. If you can't make it to a Federal Reserve on Friday night, you can check us out on live stream. Go to Occupy the NEAT Act. Just on livestream.com.
So
You'll have to make a little account there, but you can join the conversation from at home. And we have a lot of people watching on live stream. It's getting bigger every week. People understand what we're doing, and that's really the next best thing you can do, because once you have it, once you're connected with us on live stream, or in person, and if you can't do that, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. We're always sharing news stories and things that are relevant to this conversation. We'll share news stories that you're not going to find on MSNBC or Fox. So just jump in with the conversation. That's the main thing to do. Read the Need Act, and then find your representative. Call your representative and tell them to read this. And tell your friends to read it, and tell your friends to contact the representative. This stuff does work. Make a video of yourself calling your representative and, tweet that video to us. And it's like an ALS Ice Bucket Challenge style thing. Show that you, be bold, take that first step, and show that you are engaging with the political process. And then, just keep in mind that we don't need everybody to do this. We just need about 1 million people to start calling their representatives. And we get even a quarter of that, things will be very different from here on out.
Wasn't it Dennis
Kucinich
Dennis Kucinich who drew up the Need Act?
Yeah, he was the senator who got it drafted up, and Conyers got it introduced. A gentleman named Jamie Walton helped get it written. You met him at the New York City Federal Reserve last fall. And it was based on research done by a man named Stephen Berlinger from the American Monetary Institute. They just had their annual conference in Chicago this past week. And there's a lot going on here. And the whole movement of online sovereign currency is much bigger than the U.S. We have a much more successful movement in the UK that we look to for direction called Positive Money UK, and they actually managed to get members of their parliament to take a poll on monetary creation, and obviously none of their leaders in parliament know anything about how money is actually made. None of our people here in Congress really know how money is made.
And that it doesn't. That it's actually a debt note, right, Harrison? It's a note of debt.
What?
It's a note of debt.
Yeah, that's right. Our money is based on debt that the banks create. The banks, they make out loans to people, and then that becomes the basis of our monetary, the size of our money supply. And then obviously, this is just zeros and ones getting created on balance sheets. Anytime a bank makes a loan, they don't really make any. There's no real value. They just make up the money out of thin air and they say, "Here you go," and then they expect a repayment.
It's crazy, right? It's like
it is crazy. It's the ultimate privilege. You could ask for one superpower. It's light, invisibility.
It's such a betrayal.
Right to create money.
It's such a betrayal. What they're doing.
Yeah, it is. You can have with the private banking system, you can have public or private healthcare systems, you can have public or private education systems, but the one thing you cannot have in society is a privatized monetary system. You can't have private money. You can't let one bank, like the Federal Reserve, own all the money that everyone has to use in that society. There's no point in talking about a free government or free people, let alone free markets or free economics, if the money that all of us use is privately owned.
Right, because it goes against the laws of nature.
It's just economy game. It's the ultimate way of getting everything for nothing. So I mean, one of the thing I want to jump back to Sever a little bit. One of the things I think we should talk about, just in terms of the current political climate, in terms of reaching out to your representatives. One representative that I would encourage everyone to reach out to and talk to about the National Emergency Employment Defense Act is, of course, Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders made Alan Greenspan, former chairman of the Fed and student of Ayn Rand, total free economics messiah. Obviously Bernie Sanders made him feel the burn back in 2003. And so, Bernie, he was instrumental in calling for an audit of the Fed. I think it's important to audit the Fed. We need to know what's going on. But if you really look and if you really understand monetary systems, anything about it, when you get the idea of privatized money, it becomes obvious that we have to make our monetary system public. We have to free our money system from private control. We have to have public oversight over our monetary system. So what this bill would do is that it would put it under essentially a Supreme Court for monetary affairs. There wouldn't be just private Federal Reserve Board of Governors. The people who run the Federal Reserve would now be appointed as staggered terms, bipartisan appointments by the president. So that we know who would be making the decisions about how much money is in the economy and what that money is being used for. That way we can trace it. So there's no need for further audit. This restores accountability. This just makes the government work. Right. At a minimum, I suppose, it's just the first step. After we nationalize our currency system, then we can really start to rebuild this country.
Is there any way of reaching out to, possibly mainstream media that could possibly talk about this? I mean,
Kat, the way this works is that the more people we get on the corner of the Fed every Friday night, and the more people we get on live stream, the more people we get retweeting and reposting posts on social media, the more likely the mainstream media is going to come out. The mainstream media knows who I am. They know who Occupy is. They know what the Fed is.
Right.
We just need them to figure out what the need act is. We need enough people down there saying, yo, check this out. And it'll happen, and the dominoes will fall, and we'll all just go on the ride of our lives.
Thank you, Harrison.
For real.
I appreciate you being on, and again, I want you to come back periodically to keep the momentum going, because that's another thing too. It's I feel like it's not enough if you're just on once a year or something, because I believe it was about last year at this time that you were on last.
It's been too long, man. I mean, time flies. It's not because I don't want to be around. It's just time flies.
I know.
Yeah, we had Occupy League Street going on every Tuesday night over the past year. So now we've shifted to Friday night. So this Tuesday night spot's a good time to come back in and catch up.
Oh,
so
good.
You'll be hearing more of me for sure.
All right. So
I hope we see you down at the Fed. I hope you can make it on Friday, Kat.
All right. So everybody should go to Occupy the Need Act, the event on Facebook, and they can also Google it for more information and just go to the website, right?
Yep, that's correct. Check us out check out our WordPress blog, check out our Facebook page, give us a like there, and check us out on Twitter, Occupy Need Act on Twitter as well. And come check us out. Oh, check us out on live stream also. It's very important if you can't make it in person. And just Occupy Need Act on live stream. Can't miss us.
Okay, thank you, Harrison SHULTZ.
Hey, thank you for your work too, Kat. Thank you for listening. If you're online, see y'all down the Fed.
Amen. Peace.
Amen. Peace.
Bye.